And welcome back to coverage here of the new Capenna Championship. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. We're now down in our lower round one matches, but the intensity's turned up now, Paul, because not only are there still big stakes to look forward to for the winner of the match, the loser of the match, it's time to go home. So we are now in the elimination stages of the tournament. Zachary Kiihne versus Karl Sarap, Esper Midrange versus Jun Midrange. On the line here for Kiihne, well, he just wants to continue through the tournament. There's also kind of an interesting setup here as well, Paul, with teammates and the World Championship seats as it results with Kiihne's result here.
Yeah. It's actually really interesting because for this match, Karl Sarap is also on the same testing team as Kiihne, right? And now he's playing Karl, where Karl doesn't have a world spot locked, right? He doesn't have a World Championship spot locked, so Karl absolutely needs to win this to play in the World Championship. However, if Zach Kiihne can eliminate Karl Sarap, then Austin Bersavage will qualify for the World Championship because Zach Kiihne already has earned an invite into the World Championship as he top sixed a previous set championship event.
There you go. So if you're looking at Karl Sarap, he has the privilege here of having his fate in his hands. If he can get by Zachary Kiihne, he can take that seat and secure it for himself. Let's see if he can do so. It is going to be tough against this curve. Luminarch Aspirin into Rafine Scheming Seer from Kiihne.
Yeah, although he put a counter on the Rafine, so now offering the trade, I think Karl would be pretty happy taking this trade with the Harvester.
Yeah, interesting trade there from Zachary Kiihne.
And the perfect answer off the top here, Riveteer's Charm off the top to kill this Rafine if he wants.
He's going to need to main phase it if he wants to get around that Spell Pierce sitting there. Does he see the line here? Yes, he does. Riveteer's Charm is going to force the sacrifice of Rafine and clear the board now for Kiihne. So Karl Sarap right where he wants to be. No board state, no pressure. But there's good news here for Kiihne. He's got a replacement Rafine, though no attackers at the ready this turn, so it's just going to sit there for a bit.
Right, and Karl, again, has the right removal spells. Karl's removal suite, very, very well suited here to deal with Rafine. Basically, all the removal that he plays can kill Rafine. We're talking Voltage Surge, Infernal Grasp, and Unleash the Inferno.
Yeah, Karl takes this turn to play a tap land as well as get Fable the Mirror Breaker down. You'll see the players prioritize getting Fable down as soon as possible, right? When anytime you have a saga, you need to be able to get through those chapters to get the value out of the card. And the longer you wait, the less likely it is that you'll actually be able to take advantage of it, because you might die before chapter 2 or 3 happens. So he's going to get Fable down, let Rafine stay on the battlefield here for a turn. Sure, he's going to take a hit, little bit of card selection from Kiihne, but he's got the answer for after this anyway.
Right. No land here from Zach Kiihne, which is a bit unfortunate for him. Still has the option of running out the wedding announcement here, or if he's concerned about potentially a heavy hitter here from Karl Sarap, Karl with several 5-mana Planeswalkers in his deck. So having access to that Spell Pierce could be good for him. So instead, he can choose to just go for Vanishing Verse while keeping up the Spell Pierce.
You can see why Fable is so good. Even with it getting 1-for-1, Karl Sarap still leaves behind a very relevant body, a 2/2 that makes treasures when it attacks, thanks to that Goblin Shaman there. And that's a huge deal for Karl, as he has plenty of things to spend mana on. The other upside here for Zachary is that he gets to leave up that Spell Pierce.
Yeah, but you better believe Karl is aware of this. Couple of options. Could choose to go for the Rafine, but actually just making sure that he can get that Tenacious Underdog out of the way here, activating Hive of Diatyrant, exiling the Tenacious Underdog, and putting on some pressure.
Yeah, it was a pretty good turn there for Karl Sarap. He got in for a lot and took away a recursive threat for down the line. Oh, another missed land drop, though, for Kiihne.
You get a loot, though, but another miss here for Zach.
Geez, so he's seen 4 cards in a row, none of them lands now?
Right.
That's tough.
It's also just one thing that's really interesting is oftentimes what we've seen when somebody plays Rafine, oftentimes it's, okay, let me get this off the battlefield as quickly as possible. But Karl choosing to just race the Rafine. It's like, look, I know you've got a handful of action. I'm just going to try to put maximum pressure on, and I still have the Infernal Grasp when it gets to kind of that tipping point where the Rafine just gets too big.
That's right. It's worth noting here, right, that Rafine on its own isn't that big of a clock. It's a powerful card. It matters. But unless you start getting other creatures rolling along with it, he can take some hits. Karl's still at 15.
Yeah, this might be the turn, though. Now we have a second creature on the battlefield. We might see just the double removal spell turn here, right? Voltage Surge on the underdog, Infernal Grasp on the Rafine. Alternatively, you can Voltage Surge the underdog and then activate the Hive of the Eye Tyrant and get that one off the battlefield as well.
If he wants to keep ignoring Rafine, he can do so. It does feel like he has the wiggle room to do that.
No, I see a highlight under Rafine, so it feels like an Infernal Grasp this time around. Now, he does have the mana to pay, right? It would cost him a treasure.
So he's going to generate a treasure, another treasure.
Could also choose to do it on Zach's upkeep.
We're going to see it here on main phase, and this means that the Spell Pierce and the Ward is not enough. The best it could do is get you to sacrifice a treasure. So now, once again, Zach with no board state, he does find a land, but it's Rafine's Tower. That'll enter the battlefield tapped. Look, he'll take it. That's better than not a land, but he's going to have to settle for just Wedding Announcement here. And that means that Goblin Shaman's getting to attack for a third time. He's really generating some advantage here for Karl.
Yeah, all the treasure. And, I mean, if Karl really just doesn't want to deal with this Wedding Announcement, keep in mind, can get it off the battlefield, right?
Sure.
1 damage to the token, and then also get this announcement off the battlefield. He could also just choose to pick a better spot so he can get a more relevant body out of the way along with the Wedding Announcement. And it looks like he just wants to attack here instead.
Right. There's still a tenacious underdog in the yard with the 4th mana available for Kiihne. That could be a source of advantage for him. So Hive is going to get in, take that out. Another treasure made, and another 5 damage knocks Zachary down to 8. This game has just not gone well for him. Now he finds the Wandering Emperor, but he already had a copy of that. He's going to wait on it.
Yeah, wait on the Wandering Emperor. Also remember, I mean, since both players' life totals are getting kind of low, Zach also just getting in for that attack here with the hopes of maybe having that Meat Hook Massacre in his hand do the final few points of damage.
Right, that's a good point. He could try to craft a game plan around that depending on how the board ends up developing. We could see Wandering Emperor make a 2/2. That could add up for a good amount of damage next turn. Another attack the next turn followed by a Meat Hook Massacre could be enough. Interestingly, both players holding the Meat Hook Massacre in hand.
Yeah, and this is this Wandering Emperor will be able to get this 2/2 off the battlefield, but now Karl can go Unleash the Inferno, killing Wandering Emperor plus Wedding Announcement.
Wow, and that's before the announcement gets to transform as well, and even before the end step. So big time value here for Karl Sarap, using some of these really well positioned cards like Unleash the Inferno to his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, typically Unleash the Inferno has been mostly a sideboard card, right? It's a bit inefficient as a removal spell. It costs 4 mana to kill a thing. But in a tournament where you do expect basically the entire field to have some relevant enchantment or artifact to kill, right? Every color has something. If you're red, you have Fable. If you're green, you have Chariot. If you're white, you have Wedding Announcement. So given that, it makes sense that this is the type of card that has worked its way into the main deck.
Zach plays his land and passes the turn back over. Isika's Chariot hit the battlefield for Karl last turn. Now it's active and ready to go with the 2 cat tokens sitting there, ready to get in the car and take a little spin.
Yeah, Karl has to be mindful of the Wandering Emperor here. If he crews the Isika's Chariot and then attacks...
Interesting. So he's going to take a cool kind of middle ground here. He's going to go for Meat Hook Massacre for 1, which he can respond by crewing his Chariot, and then that will kill everything else, kill the soldiers or whatever they are on the battlefield here for Kiihne. And then he could still get in with the Chariot.
He can. Now, Kiihne has a decent follow-up here, right? Because you can go Wandering Emperor, exile Isika's Chariot,
Massacre.
and then Massacre.
Yeah,
right?
that's a great follow-up here for Kiihne, especially given that Karl Sarap's last card in hand is just a land. You know, after all said and done, it'll be Wandering Emperor versus Hive of the Eye Tyrant.
Yeah, it will be. And
and look at this.
Yeah.
So good here from Karl Sarap. Planning for an outcome where he doesn't get to run away with the chariot, he's going to make a copy of Blood Token, recognizing that he is out of gas here.
Love it.
That every card he can see from this point could be really important to the outcome of this game. Let's see what he can find off of this first Blood Token. And that's why you do that. He finds another land, and now he can get rid of it.
Every card so important in these mid-range matchups.
Really heads up play there from Karl Sarap. Now, though, the 1-2 punch from Kiihne does get to come to fruition here. He has Wandering Emperor, and there will be no board state on the other side. I just keep looking at Hive of the Eye Tyrant, though, Paul. It's a problem.
It is. And Zach likely just going to make a 2-2 here. Hive of the Eye Tyrant has Menace as well.
That's right.
Ooh, and this is a nice one. This is potentially 3 cards.
Right. Hey, you wanted to dig for cards, Karl. Now you found Riveteer's Charm. One of the modes is exile the top 3 cards of your library until your next end step. You can play
not
them.
The best.
Oh, wow. So this is one of those bittersweet things where he didn't hit what he needed, but at least he cleared away these lands. Maybe he can find what's underneath.
Right. I mean, just think about it. He chose to get a blood that filtered through some lands, got the Riveteer's Charm, filtered through more lands, right? So even that small decision of copying the blood, it's going to pay off for Karl if he can find action off the top here.
That's right. He's given himself the absolute best chance. And imagine if he would have copied a cat token instead. It just would have been swept away by Meathook Massacre, and he would be sitting here drawing lands right now.
Right.
Okay, what can he find? Blood Tithe Harvester, not bad.
That is.
Now, is it better to just activate lands here, though? And it looks like he has enough mana to do both. So here comes Hive the Eye Tyrant.
And also just one extra note is just for those who may have thought Zach's Nice was a bit aggressive. Both of these are teammates.
Yes.
They are likely friends. So, you know, probably just having a little bit of fun there as well.
Okay, there's the Blood Tithe Harvester. If Meathook Massacre doesn't look good by next turn, he can get rid of it. Luminarch Aspirant, but he didn't play it.
He didn't play it, so he's missing a +1/+1 counter.
Right.
Does he? Oh, maybe he wanted to make sure the Blood Tithe Harvester gets off the battlefield first, giving up a counter because, of course, you could use the Harvester with the blood in play to get the Aspirant off the battlefield.
Yeah, even if it picked up the counter. So heads up play there by Zachary. Enticing the block now from Karl. This is awesome stuff. Den of the Bugbear, though, now has a clean attack because the Luminarch Aspirant does not have 2 power. There's Kaito Shizuki, though. And with a land and a Spell Pierce, it hasn't really done much in hand. He'll be happy to see that. He's going to make a 1/1 ninja token, put a counter on that.
And this Unleash is going to be fantastic again. I mean, just getting the opposing Meathook Massacre off the battlefield when the life totals are getting this low.
Ooh, and there's Red and 7. We talked about getting every single card further into your library that you possibly can from Karl Sarap's side, and now it's paying off as he has Unleash the Inferno, and now Red and 7 goes into his hand as well.
Here's my question, though. Do you play around the 1 Spell Pierce in the main deck? Zach still has 2 cards in hand. It's felt like he's had it, just the way that he's kept his mana up since turn 4. Right? So perhaps you wait on the Red and 7. Maybe it's more important to just use Unleash the Inferno on the unblockable token.
It looks like he's going to line up a Meathook Massacre
That's
this
what
turn,
it looks
Paul.
like.
So yes, the answer to your question is Karl Sarap is going to show incredible patience here and play around play around Spell Pierce. He did so earlier in the game as well. So if you were right then and you haven't received information that would make you think that you were wrong, that card has been in hand for Zachary this entire time, then it's good to stay consistent and keep playing around it.
All right, time to loot.
This is huge. Kaito Shizuki needs to find something, and it's just another land here for Kiihne. Boy, he went from not having enough to having too many in a real hurry. Is this a land now? And it is. There's the pathway, and now we're going to see Karl Sarap slam Red and 7. He is playing beautifully here. Incredible. It's like he knows what's in Zachary's hand, but he doesn't.
He doesn't, but just he's already in a position where he's ahead and can afford to play around. He had other options that turn, right? So it's like, look, I can do other things that are also good, and I'll just wait to make sure I draw land number 7 before I run out that Ren.
Boy, a Wandering Emperor off the top of the library is nice, but another land off of the Kaito Shizuki is not what he wanted to see here. This Tree Folk is a 7/7, and he found 2 more lands, by the way, off of the Ren and 7 activation, so it'll be an 8/8 by the time it's ready to rumble. And Zachary is going to be very happy that he's got the Wandering Emperor to stem that bleeding, but Ren and 7 is going to keep doing its thing.
Right, I mean,
yeah,
you
this
Wandering
is a
Emperor,
lot.
Wandering Emperor, the 8/8, go up to 7, but you're still going to take 4.
Oh, it looks like Kaito Shizuki is going to draw the ire of Den of the Bugbear. So there's Wandering Emperor. 8/8 is a must kill. You're only at 5 life.
Yeah, this is lethal.
So up to 7, back down to 6. But Kaito Shizuki gone, and Wandering Emperor only on 1 loyalty. And plus there's Tenacious Underdog. And it's another land off the top for Kiihne. And he's going to concede that one. That's going to be Karl Sarap. Wow. Really impressed by Karl's play this game. He played wonderfully. I mean, he actually just played as if he knew every card in Zachary's hand every turn.
Yeah, again, I mean, these players must have played countless test games against each other, right? It looked like Karl, ultimately ended up playing this Jund deck, is very familiar with this Esper mid-range deck and all the different little tweaks that they made and all the different cards that are in the deck. So, there's a reason Karl made top 8. It's play like that.
That's right. Zachary Kiihne, he played well also, just had fewer options to show his play skill there. The land situation for him went from not enough to too many, and he just didn't have that many options.
Yeah.
A lot on the line here for Karl. Zachary, he has a world championship seat. He can breathe a sigh of relief that he's secured that no matter what happens. This weekend, though, of course, he would much prefer to continue through the tournament, but Karl does not have a seat at the world championship, and now he can win a game and he can secure that. It also keeps his dreams alive of moving forward in this tournament. But boy, you get above that level and you can actually breathe a sigh of relief and then, kind of regather yourself to try to win this tournament. But if he were to lose here, it would have to be heartbreaking. I mean, a really great finish for him, but to get 1 game away from the world championship would just be devastating. So he's got to buckle in here, focus, keep his emotions in check, and try to defeat Zachary Kiihne in this game or the next.
Well, if he plays the way that he did in the first game, he's locked in.
Like his chances. Yeah, same. Ray of Enfeeblement, Asika's Chariot, Meathook Massacre, and some lands here for Karl Sarap. Not much to do this turn, but not a lot of action here for Kiihne either. He's got Negate and 3 lands. He's right back on the Flood train again.
Right.
Boy, he has not been running well this game.
Yeah, but he can cycle this tower. He is the one with the creature, with the relevant creature on the battlefield. Does have a negate for that turn 4 Chariot here from Karl. So Karl's hand also not especially impressive, right? Some reactive spells. Zach can certainly draw out of this. Another thing I want to talk about, by the way, just pointing out, for Zach, this is his second top 8 this year.
Yeah,
we had 3 major events. This is his second top 8. That's incredible.
I mean, the reason that we're talking about Karl so much is because Zach's already done all the things. Right. like he has had an absolute outstanding season. And another top 8 for him is amazing. He really has solidified himself at the top of the game. And yeah, again, we're talking about Karl because he's the one that has a lot more to gain from a win here rather than Zachary. Jeez. And Zachary's going to be really happy that he's had such a great season because this match has not gone well. Now he's just land after land after land. The only good news is he's not facing down any pressure yet from Karl, but Karl's looking to change that here with Blood Tithe Harvester. Now there's some business. Rafine Scheming Seer, huge top deck here, and it's going to have to get Infernal Grasp immediately, or even Ray of Enfeeblement.
Likely Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of the main reason to play this card specifically, it's Rafine. The Infernal Grasp will have plenty of other targets, but being able to go 2 mana, use that removal spell, and now we're kind of in an even situation, and it's kind of tough if you're in Karl's situation, because you're at 11, you probably want to block this, but given that Zach's flooded, he's okay with this exchange, because then he can just start drawing cards off this underdog.
That's right. He's like, thank God I have something to do next turn when I draw
right.
another land off the top of my library. Because at some point your brain just goes, okay, fine. You know, I'm just going to be drawing a lot of these things. All right, so Blood Token is going to get activated. And whoa, there's some action there for Karl Sarap. He goes right into Fable of the Mirror Breaker and Riveteer's Charm. Looks like he might be considering going for Riveteer's Charm for a land. Doesn't really make sense to do so. The Fable looks quite good.
Yeah, and he's going for, he's not going to exile the graveyard, is he?
He could. Oh, that's interesting.
He did.
He absolutely did, Paul. He was
does
worried.
not like the underdog.
Yeah, he's like, look, you're not doing anything else. I have a read that you're flooding out, and I am going to go ahead and exile your graveyard. Another heads up play. By the way, we've now seen Karl use that card in all 3 modes, right? The Riveteer's Charm just doing its thing.
I mean,
here.
It's a charm, right? It's flexible. That's why you play it. You don't play it just for one mode, or else oftentimes the way that these charms are designed is one mode is just not quite efficient enough as a magic card by itself. But it's that flexibility that you're paying the cost for. And another thing that I just want to point out, and you saw this in game 1 too, where Karl was very aggressively attacking the underdog, right? He had all kinds of different options, but chose to activate the Hive to get rid of the underdog in multiple instances where the underdog went into the graveyard, recognizing that these games go long. It's all about every little piece of incremental advantage, and so I need to get this underdog off the battlefield. I refuse to let you draw even one card off of that ability.
It really does give us insight into the way that Karl approaches the matchup. Oh, and there's a negate 1 turn late here. Fable to Mirror Breaker on the battlefield now for Sarap, and he's going to get to do the whole discard draw thing. He's just going to get rid of 1 Meathook Massacre. He's going to keep the other one in hand just in case. Here comes the Goblin Shaman, knocking Zachary down to 18, and we see Valki, God of Lies, in hand now. That can come down next turn as a Planeswalker, Paul.
It can. Now, so Zach needs to be careful not to tap out here. Have that negate up for the Valki.
Thank goodness he does.
We're likely going to see a Wandering Emperor here going after the Hive, as he does have Meathook Massacre to clean up what's in play.
Okay. And that he still has enough mana for negate down the line anyway, so this all works out.
Yeah, so this is a good sequence here for Zach.
Once again, Karl Sarap playing beautifully, right? He didn't just play right into the negate. Instead, he's using his mana on stuff that can't be countered.
Right, and we're going to see a slammed Meathook Massacre for 2 here. Ticking up a Wandering Emperor. There's no threat of the Wandering Emperor dying, right? There's no creature lands in play. No underdogs in graveyard. Could, of course, blitz one in, but he even has the Vanishing Verse for that.
No target for the Wandering Emperor, but he'll take the loyalty counter there. There's a land, and now is he forced to just put Valki on the stack? Yes, it's Tibalt Cosmic Imposter, but that does get countered here by Kiihne. Finally, he had the right answer at the right time, and now Karl Sarap is out of gas. No blood tokens, no nothing, and there's wedding announcement now for Kiihne. Things finally starting to switch in his direction. He's going to make a 2/2. He'll get a 1/1 out of the wedding announcement as well before passing the turn. Okay, Briarbridge Trekker's got to be one of the better draws here for Sarap.
Yeah, and I wonder if Karl's also going to run out a Meathook for 2 here. By making sure you Meathook for 2, you prevent Zach from drawing cards with the wedding announcement.
That is Karl's MO for sure, right? We've seen him go to any lengths possible to keep Zachary from drawing any extra cards whenever he can.
Yeah.
Meathooks will kind of trade triggers here, and there's Briarbridge Tracker. He'll
nice body here, playing the full 4 copies of this card in his Jund deck.
He likes himself a 2-for-1. There's a Meathook Massacre off the top of the library now from Kiihne. And it looks like he's going to use it to kill the tracker.
Yeah, the old 5 mana kill a creature.
Indeed.
But gets the job done.
And that'll allow him to keep Wandering Emperor safe. Once again, he has to plus it with no count, with no target. But again, keeping Planeswalker on the battlefield, working out well for him. Wedding Announcement's doing its thing. Back over to Karl. Oh, and he draws Lulth Spider Queen. A couple of great top decks here for Karl Sarap. He's up a game. A little behind in this one, but he's looking to even things up with Lulth.
Right. And Unleash the Inferno would be a fantastic draw, right? You can get both the announcement and the Wandering Emperor off the battlefield. But you know what? I mean, even this Lulth is going to do a lot of work here. Zach might just be forced to Vanishing Verse to Lulth, as bad as that feels.
Yeah, once Lulth makes the 2/2/1 reach menace creatures, now you use a removal spell on it. Doesn't feel great. Cycling Rafine's Tower to try to find something, and it's just another land. But
he's got the superior board, right?
He does. He does.
Unleash!
Oh my goodness. Unleash the Inferno. The top decks just don't stop here for Karl Sarap. He's up a game. He wants that seat at the World Championship, and he's drawing the type of cards he needs to earn it.
Yeah. Still not in a position where I think he's ahead. And look, this is aggressive here. He's getting in there.
Wandering Emperor. Yeah.
He does.
And Kiihne doesn't even want to trade off a 2/2 for one of the 2/1s, so.
And now you can kill a 3/3 and also the Wedding Announcement.
That's right.
Perhaps. Okay, it's like if you have a counterspell, at least use mana on your turn. I'm going to wait till your upkeep to do this.
And there is no counterspell, so that is going to be the 3/3 going away. Then Wedding Festivity, I assume, will be the target.
Oh, going after Meat Hook.
He could go after Meat Hook.
No, okay.
But it is going to be the Wedding Festivity. That's going to shrink down the other two creatures. And there's Tenacious Underdog, though. Off the top, it's going to get blitzed into play. Voltage Surge could kill it, but that isn't the game that Karl Sarap wants to play.
Definitely
that would just
not.
be a damage mitigation.
I mean, if he does if he Voltage Surges, I mean, can't Zach just cast it again and draw 2 cards this turn?
Yeah, actually he can. That's funny.
I don't think Karl is interested in that exchange.
You're right. Another land though for Kiihne, and he's kind of all in on Tenacious Underdog at this point, and this one's going to be a close finish. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. The draws continue here for Sarap.
Wow,
and there's Wandering Emperor now
draws.
for Kiihne. Yeah, boy, this match went into full gear now. Tenacious Underdog is going to get in, and it looks like Karl's going to protect his life total here. Trade off his 2/2.
Now this Fable of the Mirror Breaker is going to have to do some work.
It sure is.
And with meat hooks on both sides,
Massacre,
it's just a bunch of triggers, but just break even on that exchange, of course.
Here's the important one, though. Tenacious Underdog back in the graveyard again, and that is currently Zachary Kiihne's source of card advantage. Briarbridge Tracker.
Great draw.
Yeah.
One nice thing about the tracker, too, by the way, Vigilance. Allows you to play around Wandering Emperor. Vigilance is a nice keyword against this Esper deck.
Interesting. So on top of that, Karl chose to keep Voltage Surge in hand. He liked what he saw here. He didn't want to get rid of either card.
Yeah, and Briarbridge Tracker still with the +2/+0 because of the treasure that's in play.
Mm-hmm. A land was what he found off of the clue.
And it could get a nice value engine going with Reflection of Kiki Jiki and Briarbridge Tracker, right?
Oh, yeah.
Draw a card every turn.
So both players with some sort of card advantage engine coming online. Right now, Zach already has his. He has Tenacious Underdog.
And how quickly is Karl going to cast this Voltage Surge? I'm just curious.
It did not take long to go on the stack. Yeah, very, very quickly. So another 2/2 Vigilance creature here for Zachary, but he loses his creature. Oh, but there's Vanishing Verse.
Is this going to be, let's see, Vanishing Verse, the Briarbridge Tracker, attack with everything. That'll put Karl down to 2 life, right? If he blocks the Underdog. If he doesn't block the Underdog, that'll put him to 1.
Yeah, Zachary probably looking at the Tracker as a good target regardless.
And I wonder if there's a weird world where Zach's considering, hey, what if I just attack with everything and then I verse your Meat Hook Massacre? Will that be enough?
Oh, good question. Yeah. Of course, the way this will work is any Meat Hook Massacre triggers will go on the stack. The active players will go on first. That's Zachary.
Yeah,
then
and
Karl's.
that's
Karl's
what he's
will
going.
resolve first.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Because if Karl blocks like this, then Zach can exile Meat Hook Massacre,
Yes.
and this is lethal.
Yes, he actually found the win here. And look at that
Nice
play from
play.
Zach Kiihne. Awesome line. Good job on you too, Paul, for finding that line. As now we're going to see 2 creatures die here on Zachary Kiihne's side, and he's the one that has the Meat Hook Massacre, and that is that. Game number 2 in the books. Zach Kiihne equalizes after, I have to say, another rough go for him. It was not easy, but he found a way to get over the finish line, and he's going to force a game 3 against his teammate, Karl Sarap. And Karl's got a real sweat here. He has to win this third game. It's so huge to try to get that world championship seed.
And what an unconventional line there too, right? I think the vast majority of people in that situation, you go, oh, I drew my removal spell. I have a nice board. I have more creatures than you. I'm going to kill your biggest creature and attack you. But Zach found a line that guaranteed if Karl blocked a certain way, that's a lethal attack. Really, really heads up here from Kiihne.
Very impressive. Both of these players, you can just tell the work that they've put in for this tournament, right? They are playing super well. They know all the interactions. They're playing quickly, right? They know the matchup super well. You can just feel it, right? I've watched a lot of Magic in my day, and you can tell when people are super dialed in, and both of these players are.
Yeah, and by the way, we're talking about how much Karl refuses to let that underdog stay in the graveyard. I mean, the underdog won Zach that game.
Yes,
right?
it did. Yes, it did.
It just drew him multiple cards in a situation where they both just exhausted each other's threats.
Yeah, you can tell why Karl is prioritizing those type of cards. Game number 3 underway. Zach Kiihne versus Karl Sarap. They're teammates, but right now they are enemies. Karl Sarap needs a win to qualify for World Championship. Zach doesn't. Zach already has a seat. But of course, both of these players' tournament is on the line. The loser of this game will be out of the tournament.
I wouldn't be shocked if Karl just passes. Just because Zach passed with 2 mana up, right? And maybe you just pass and draw cards.
Wow, he's going to play Serulf Realm Eater, which is just beautiful here.
Oh,
this is a very high upside play. Yeah, he gets in and he's able to dodge Vanishing Verse because he chose Serulf rather than Briarbridge Tracker. Again, just these heads up plays. Karl, he's going to be so relieved to see that Serulf hit the battlefield. Now what, though? There's Rafine on the other side. He's ignored it before.
Yeah. I mean, and you can still get in for 4 this turn, right? You don't have the mana to actually draw cards off the Bankbuster, but you can choose to just crew it up here, get in for 4 again, and just race. I mean, he's got the better board here. It's awkward in a situation where you're behind on board with the Rafine, right? Because if you want to maximize on the Rafine, you need to be attacking every turn.
Rafine gets in the red zone and connive. Now there's a tenacious underdog, but we're really not at that point, right? When you get up to 6-7 mana, you can start thinking about blitzing it from the graveyard and then even casting a spell. But you know, this is a card he'd rather have on the battlefield at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Zach could be interested in playing out the underdog and have basically 2 plays this turn, right? This allows you to go Vanishing Verse plus underdog.
I like that. That's good mana efficiency, and he added to his board and took away from the other. No land, but another Voltage Surge here for Sarap. Can he come up with a race that can win, like Voltage Surge or Tenacious Underdog in battle?
You can go for the tempo play here, right? You can go Surge the 3/2.
Yes.
Right? Crew up the Bankbuster, attack for 6, make a treasure, then maybe run out a tracker here too. Right?
He cannot do Harvester plus Voltage Surge, right?
Harvester plus Voltage. He can after he makes the treasure if he is concerned about the Rafine. But we've seen in situations before. I mean, Zach is at 12. if you want to attack me with Rafine, go for it.
That's
probably
what I'm
he's
thinking,
thinking.
Yeah, what I was thinking is Harvester to crew the Bankbuster and then and then Voltage Surge the underdog to go for max damage. But he has a green only source there, so he can't quite do that all pre-combat.
Right, yeah.
I'm aiming for the sky here, Paul. I want all of it.
So here, wait, you can play the tracker, crew the Bankbuster, attack with everything, and then yes, surge the underdog here. So
and
this is an attack for 9?
Yes, this is a huge attack. Karl Sarap going for the upside, and it's working for him so far. He's playing basically a tempo game against Kiihne, where he's using up more of his mana than Kiihne possibly can, thanks to these treasure tokens.
10, excuse me.
And yes,
Sarulf.
a card did go to the graveyard, so Sarulf picks up a counter, and Kiihne is down to 2 with just Rafine on the battlefield. How can he get out of this? There's no sweeper here.
It starts with, what, Wandering Emperor, gain 2 life, kill Sarulf, right?
Yes.
But then...
Chump block.
But if Karl just plays out another creature, crews out the Bankbuster, I mean, how does Zach get out of it?
And he can do that, by the way. He has another Briarbridge tracker that he could put on the battlefield, jump in the Bankbuster, send them all sideways. He even could use Voltage Surge to kill Rafine here. No, not quite. He was close.
he was close, but I mean, I think this is just going to be a lethal attack.
This looks lethal to me, Paul. Karl Sarap with an absolutely thunderous draw here in game number 3. Is it enough? It looks like it from here. Kiihne down to just 2 life. He's going to get
going
rid
to
of
the World
Sarulf.
Championship.
Wow, Karl Sarap, super impressive performance over the course of the weekend, and it is going to culminate in victory here. He has 2 lethal 4-powered creatures coming in, and he's going to go for Voltage Surge anyway. And there we go. The winning attack. Karl Sarap is going to play at the World Championship, and he is going to advance in the lower bracket, dispatching of his teammates.